Spectre was once again directed by Sam Mendes and this time stars Daniel Craig, Léa Seydoux, and Christoph Waltz. M leaves a trail for Bond, later leading to Bond discovering the existence of a sinister organization known as Spectre. I'm finishing off my Daniel Craig James Bond review series. I just reviewed Skyfall finally, and now here we are at the fourth Daniel Craig James Bond film, Spectre. It came out in 2015, and a lot of people were hyped about this one because, again, it was directed by Sam Mendes, who also directed Skyfall, obviously one of the best James Bond movies ever made. So, as you could tell, going into this film, many people were very hyped for Spectre. They thought it could be even better than Skyfall, maybe even better than Casino Royale. The first time I saw Spectre, I enjoyed it. I thought it was another solid entry in the James Bond franchise, despite not being better than Skyfall as we hoped for, but still I walked out of the theater with a smile on my face. And since I saw this movie in theaters, I've probably seen the movie another 4 or 5 times. And every single time I watch Spectre, the more I dislike this movie. It's still a solid James Bond movie. This movie is a lot better than another Daniel Craig James Bond movie known as Quantum of Solace. That movie is horrible, but it's still a disappointing entry nonetheless because we always have a lot of hype going into these Daniel Craig films, and we expect the best quality because, of course, Casino Royale and Skyfall are top tier films in cinema history. So for this movie not to be nearly as good as either one of those two is a tad bit disappointing, but at least it is better than Quantum of Solace, and it's not a bad movie by any means. It's watchable, of course. We start the movie off in Mexico City, where Bond is tracking down a man known as Marco Sciarra. The opening action sequence in Spectre, just like in Casino Royale and Skyfall, without a doubt is the best action sequence in the entire movie. It takes place on the Day of the Dead, and the cinematography in this scene is breathtaking, not to mention how exciting this action sequence is. It begins with Bond who is firing at these guys in this building, then it leads to a chase, which then ensues in a helicopter fight, and this entire action sequence is a blast. The moment where Bond pulls the helicopter back up into the air feels like Everything or Nothing, the James Bond video game. It's very corny, but this is a good opening nonetheless. I enjoy it every single time I watch it. Then we get Sam Smith's Writing on the Wall. It's a fine James Bond theme song. I actually think it's my least favorite of the 5 Craig Bond movie theme songs, including Billie Eilish's new theme song for No Time to Die. This one is completely listenable. It's alright. Not to say this one is bad, it's completely fine. There's only one melody in the entire song, though, that I like. That's about it. The rest of the song is just disposable, in my opinion. Once the theme song is over, the next 20 or so minutes feels so lighthearted, just like another day at the office, pretty much. In these 20 minutes, all of the characters come off as super relaxed, except for M, who is always uptight, but the rest of the characters, you would have not a single clue that these people work for MI6. It comes off that they have not a single worry in the world, which is odd considering they work for a really important organization in the United Kingdom. It kind of goes like this. Excuse my awful impression of these characters. Q. Good day, Bond. I have some more secret gadgets for you to check out today. Delightful. Literally every single character acts like this throughout the majority of Spectre, except for a couple of other characters like M, who was like, Bond, what were you doing in Mexico City? I guess since they solved the mystery of MI6's attacks in Skyfall, none of these people care about anything anymore. They are worry-free and just want to live their lives happily. Yeah, it's definitely a huge change in tone between Skyfall and Spectre. And I will say, it is great to see Ben Whishaw reprising his role as Q, and the scenes where himself and Bond are interacting, there is some great humor in those scenes again. So Bond continues on his trail from M, which takes him to Rome. He attends the funeral of the man he killed in Mexico City. I like this funeral scene a lot because during the sequence, Bond can see Oberhauser, aka Blofeld, played by Christoph Waltz, the film's main villain, from behind. And that keeps this villain very mysterious. We don't see his face. We don't see much of this villain in the film. in general, which a lot of people had a problem with, but I kind of like that about his character because he's so mysterious, and the more ambiguous a villain can be, the better in my opinion. Later on, Bond attends a meeting for Spectre, the criminal organization led by Blofeld, and this is where Dave Bautista establishes himself as Blofeld's main henchman. Right after this, Bond is compromised and a car chase ensues between Dave Bautista's character and James Bond. It's a decent car chase action sequence with some funny moments thrown in there, but this could have been a much better scene than it turned out to be. If you watch this scene, you'll notice that there are barely any other cars on the road when these guys are chasing each other. How are there no other cars on the road? It's like these guys are driving through a ghost town. That makes no sense. Rome is highly populated. Because of that, this comes off more as a race than a action car chase. They could have utilized their guns, or they could have crashed into more things, but that never happens. They just race around, and that's all we get. Oh, and during this action sequence, Moneypenny and Bond are talking over the phone, and when it cuts to Moneypenny's apartment, we can see that she is sleeping with somebody, but this is never brought up again. Apparently, Moneypenny secretly has a boyfriend, and we never find out who it is. I guess we might find out about this man in No Time to Die, but it's really weird how you see him for about half a second, and then they never bring it up again. I don't understand that choice. So now our journey takes us to Austria, where Mr. White is integrated back into the Bond universe. We have not seen this guy since Quantum of Solace. It's cool to see Mr. White back into the James Bond fold, but he's only in the movie for about 5 minutes before he kills himself, so that was a little disappointing. But Bond agrees to watch after Mr. White's daughter, Madeline Swan, played by Léa Seydoux. Madeline Swan is the first major love interest for Bond in these Daniel Craig James Bond films since Vesper in Casino Royale. And I think that's really cool because Bond has not been involved in a serious relationship since Casino Royale. Now he's much older, and we get to see how his romanticizing has changed since that film. Plus, it helps a lot that these two have excellent chemistry on the screen. Madeline is captured by Dave Bautista's character, and this time we get another decent action sequence in Austria. I think the set pieces in this scene are awesome. You have a plane, you have a lot of mountains, you have these big trucks. It's pretty cool stuff, but just like in the car chase Rome scene earlier in the movie, they don't do that much with what they have. It's basically just a plane in the air chasing down cars on the ground, and they don't really do anything until the very end of the scene where there's a big crash. Skipping ahead a little bit, Bond and Madeline go to some place called Les Americains where they learn more about the location of Blofeld's secret base. Bond and Madeline board a train, and we get another action sequence where Dave Bautista fights Daniel Craig in a white knuckle brawl. This is actually a really great fight. It's violent, over the top, and brutal. I think it's sick. Between this and the opening action sequence in Spectre, these two are far and away the best action sequences in Spectre. It's really not much of a competition. I guess the Austria plane sequence can be considered, but it's not that great as some people say it is. Bond and Madeline arrive at Blofeld's secret lair, and this is the point in the movie where it starts to feel a little more cartoonish, like the Roger Moore James Bond films. I don't take this movie as seriously as Casino Royale or Skyfall. It feels a lot more like a video game, and maybe a little bit more like an Austin Powers movie. That's because I don't take Blofeld's henchmen and his secret lair that seriously. It's almost like I'm watching a cartoon. I kind of crack up at some of these scenes, especially when they arrive at this secret lair. It's pretty funny and a little bit too hard to believe. But Christoph Waltz is Spectre's main villain, and he is fantastic as Oberhauser, or also known as Blofeld. A lot of people have complained about how Christoph Waltz is not in Spectre enough, but like I said, I am content with this decision because it keeps his character more mysterious. The more mysterious your villain is, the better in my opinion. But going back to Christoph Waltz's Blofeld, while I like how this movie is connected to the previous 3 movies and now all 4 movies feel like one big piece of the pie, at the same time, to me, it's lazy writing to have Blofeld be behind the previous 3 villains' actions. Since Blofeld is responsible for the terrorist attacks carried out by Le Chiffre, Green, and Silva, Now that kind of invalidates all of their actions from those three movies. I don't take those villains as seriously as I did in those films, because now I know they are not the masterminds behind their vicious plots. It especially invalidates Silva, who in Skyfall was a villain that I really connected with. You feel this man's pain, you understand where he's coming from. It's just kind of stupid, but at the same time, I do love how James Bond and Blofeld have a past with each other, because James Bond was brought in by Blofeld's father, and since they developed a really strong relationship, Blofeld got jealous and he killed his father, so James Bond could no longer feel the love of Blofeld's father. Sure, it's a little far-fetched. I understand why people hate this part of the plot, because these guys are now basically brothers, but it adds so much more depth to James Bond's character. We didn't really get that much depth for James Bond in Casino Royale or Quantum of Solace. We started seeing more in Skyfall, and now in Spectre we get even more character development for Daniel Craig's James Bond. Oh, but how could I possibly forget to mention the subplot of Spectre where Max, aka C, is trying to eliminate the 00 program and replace it with an intelligence initiative called Nine Eyes. Basically, this Nine Eyes thing is having cameras all around the world watching everyone's every move. And to me, this is an afterthought in the movie. I don't really care about anything going on at MI6 in the film. Everything that's interesting that happens in the film all has to do with James Bond and Madeline. Everything else with this subplot, the Nine Eyes, I just don't really care. The best part about it is seeing M go off on Max the whole movie. It's pretty funny. So Bond escapes Blofeld's trap, him and Madeline flee. We get a little bit of action, but it does not last very long, because without hesitation, Bond mows down every single one of Blofeld's henchmen. If it were up to me, I would have had the finale of this film all take place at this secret lair. It could have been a drawn-out action sequence that may have been great. It could have been like the finale of GoldenEye, which is a great James Bond finale. But instead, they decided to keep the action to a minimum at the secret lair, have it blow up, and the finale of this movie actually takes place in England. It's a very underwhelming ending. It could have been so much more. Basically, what happens is Max dies, M, Q, Moneypenny, that entire gang are all at the new MI6, whereas Bond is at the old MI6. Blofeld is running away in his helicopter. Bond's on a boat with Madeline, shooting at the helicopter. The helicopter crashes because of the bullets hitting the engine. Blofeld is asking Bond to finish the job, but Bond decides not to because of Madeline, and that's the end of the movie. This finale is just so uninteresting and boring. I don't understand why Sam Mendes decided to go in this route for the film's finale. The finale in Skyfall is 10 times more epic. It's a lot better than the finale we get in Spectre. This is not by any means a good finale. As much as I used to like Spectre, I think over the years my love for this film has disintegrated. I don't hate this movie. I think it's a fine watch. It's not a bad movie. It's a lot better than Quantum of Solace. That's not really saying that much. It's definitely still watchable though. There is some fun to be had in some of Spectre's action sequences. The humor is once again good. Of course, Daniel Craig is fantastic as James Bond. Léa Seydoux as Madeline Swan is great in her first James Bond film. Christoph Waltz is great too, but this movie definitely has some underwhelming moments. It's not nearly as good as it could have been, especially being a sequel to Skyfall. Also, there are some very odd directing choices in Spectre. Like, I don't understand why some characters do certain things in a few scenes, but this movie does have some value and the cinematography is good once again. I'm giving Spectre a solid 60%. Alright guys, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Spectre. Do you think this is a good movie, a bad movie? Are you disappointed by this film coming off the heels of Skyfall? I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comments section. And as always guys, if you are new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.